Hello and welcome to this special edition of 365 Explained. We have dragged ourselves together because there has been some breaking, shocking news happened in the Microsoft ecosystem, Zach. So go on, fill us in. What's going on?
Today, we are going to be talking about the newly announced E7 licensing structure.
Woohoo.
Um, just before we get into that, I just want to give a little bit of background about the licensing structure that Microsoft have, specifically around enterprise SKUs. Um,
Okay.
so there's a couple of different flavors that you can go for. Some include teams as well, and some don't include teams. You can now remove that from this licensing structure. But effectively, we've got E1, E3, and E5. There
And
wasn't
E means enterprise, right?
exactly, yeah. The E stands for enterprise. There's also some F range and an A range. F stands for frontline workers, and A is for educational purposes. They were using E for enterprise, so I assume they didn't want to use E again.
Academic.
Yeah, yes, academic skew, yeah, yeah. Um, but effectively, they go odd numbers. The higher the number you get, the more licensing cost there is for one, but the more stuff, the more features that you're going to get involved in there as well. Um, so previously we stopped at E5. That was our top level of licensing. We could still have some add-ons on top of that as well, but effectively the E5 licensing included a lot of things around security, Entra, P1, P2, your Office 365 suite, some Power BI stuff, some Teams phone stuff. It was chock full of stuff.
It's almost like a maturity model baseline, isn't it? That the more mature you were in terms of your approach to security, probably the higher suites you are on because that included more things to help you manage your users, your estates, right?
Exactly that, yeah. And now it's been rumored for a long time. There's been mentions of it, murmurs of it. We're now have an announcement around an E7 licensing suite. So that is what we're going to be talking about today. We're going to be talking about a little bit of where it fits, what's actually inside of that E7 licensing. What are you going to be getting over things like, the E5, E3 licensing, and then the things that are involved, and then maybe some things that we don't really know about this licensing as well. Uh,
Yeah, and that's the challenge, isn't it? Is that there was an announcement on Monday, the week we're recording, so that would have been the 6th of March, I think. That E7 is coming. There's a bunch of kind of partner ready materials, but there's also a lot of stuff that are unanswered or questions, or this stuff kind of as it shakes out into the real world doesn't necessarily fit the neat scenarios, does it? So why we'll get on to the like, are we happy with this? But kind of the problem with an E5 and an E3 was that you ended up having to have lots of bolt-ons, didn't you? There was Teams Premium. There was more recently the M365 Copilot licensing. There's things like Entra Suite. There's these other kind of bolt-on licenses that were needed. So where does E7 sit for us?
so it's effectively taking your AI suite of tools, your M365 Copilot, and it's giving you that included as well. So whereas previously, like you just said, you'd have to go for an E5 and then have some add-ons on top, you can look at this E7 license of extending that a little bit and bringing that back in, and we'll talk a little bit about price later on, but giving you a little bit of discount as well included in
So
that.
I guess the other interesting thing, if anyone listened to the episode 7 we had, we were talking about M365 Frontier program or Copilot Frontier, which is kind of the notion of being on the cutting edge, having access to all of the Copilot functionality in your tenants. The subtitle, the name for this Microsoft 365 E7, giving it its full title, is the Frontier Worker Suite. So I think that gives quite a clue as to where Microsoft is pitching this and who they are aiming it at, right?
Yeah.
So we've got a little graphic here that is, the E7 suite is Microsoft 365 E5 plus the Entra suite, that doesn't get its own breakout box, plus M365 Copilot, plus Microsoft Agent 365, right? So that's kind of the main thrust of where they're wanting to go with this. Is that a surprise? Do you think that's on point for what people are looking for?
Um, on point of what people are looking for, maybe maybe not, but it definitely makes sense of this is where Microsoft have gone with this because um, there was no way to kind of have the AI functionality and the AI tools included as well in one licensing SKU. You were going out and you were looking at add-ons, but what this E7 is doing, like you mentioned, it's bringing those all together under one licensing SKU. It's good that I mean, like the other licenses, when you go up a number, you're still getting everything that's included in the previous one. So all of the
Yeah.
security, compliance, telephony, considerations that you had with E5, you're going to be getting those with E7 as well, but with some extras as well.
Okay. So kind of if we look at the separate SKU bundles that this replaces, so the E7 replaces the E5. And also interestingly, we have an option for this with or without Teams because there's the ding dong going on with the EU and Europe around the bundling of Teams. So there is a version with or without it. And I think we worked out the net cost Microsoft puts on the Teams license is about $8.55, something like that,
Yeah.
give or take. So all of this is, we'll assume we're talking about the version with Teams because who doesn't want Teams, right? But then we have the Entra Suite, which is, I believe, a bunch of kind of extra user protections and management functionality. So Entra, previously you have a P1 and a P2. So P1 is bundled in the E3, P2 is bundled, P1 and P2 is bundled in the E5. So this is now the full range of P1, P2, and Suite. Suite has things like web filtering, not quite stateless VPN, that's not quite the right words, but VPN like functionality for protecting your users, but also then a bunch of governance stuff. We then have Microsoft 365 Copilot, and that is access to the Copilot, as we have previously discussed. That's Microsoft's, or not Microsoft's LLM, but the fun stuff about interacting with an AI through your work data. And that includes something that was announced at Ignite, which is Work IQ,
Mhm.
which is not just grounding through graph, that is being able to intelligently join the dots together about, you had a meeting with Zach, here's a file Zach did, here's information about Zach, kind of helping give you better responses based on the work data that you're dealing with. And then we've got a question mark about this other one, which is Agent 365. So Agent 365 was the other thing announced at Ignite, which is the governance and management platform around AI agent use inside your 365 stuff. So if we look purely at the SKUs, we've got E5, Entra Suite, Copilot, and Agent 365. So E7 is a wrapper for four other SKUs if we don't unnest E5, right?
Yeah, and it's important to mention on that Agent 365. This is not the ability to go out and create agents. This is purely for governance and administration of those agents as well
Yeah.
in your tenant.
Yeah, because the Copilot license is that you can interact with them. Agent 365 is the managing. I think there's some other stuff in Agent 365 that, again, we're not necessarily sure about, but we're starting to, as we discussed on the Frontier pod, that there's agents that have their own identity and can work autonomously. I'm imagining that Agent 365 includes some licensing capabilities for those accounts, in the same way that Exchange has some functionality around shared mailboxes that aren't bound to a user, but still has like a user-like identity, or so
Yeah.
it's interesting. So, what do you make of the pricing?
I think they're definitely trying to keep it under $100. I mean, that's very, very evident. I don't know if that's come from somewhere as well, we don't want to be spending over $100 on a particular Microsoft licensing SKU. But I mean, we'll come to this maybe in a little bit, but E7 is not everything. There are still add-ons depending on what you're currently rolled out to your users, what you're using. Don't see E7 as a complete wrapper as I don't need anything else now. There are
Yeah.
still some functionalities that are missing. But There is a slight cost saving. I mean, what was Copilot? That was $30 a month that was adding
Yeah.
on, and people that were using this E5 SKU, they were and Copilot, they were spending $90 a month anyway on licensing. So it's not,
These are all RRPs, right?
yeah,
Subject to whatever licensing agreements and stuff you have. But it's also worth noting on the pricing that the E3 and E5 SKUs are due to be price adjusted from July, anyway, 1st of July, I believe it is.
yeah,
But there's also another wrinkle that in the EU and other parts of the world, I don't think in the UK for us actually, there's also been currency adjustments, like so exchange rate adjustments. So we've got two levels of pricing changes. One is the baseline price for a suite going up, and the other is actually Microsoft has reduced the price in some parts of the world because of the exchange rate adjustment, and now we've got this $99. It's complicated.
yeah. It definitely is. And you know, price wise as well, you've got the Entra Suite, which was around $12 a user anyway,
Mm.
per month. Um, and then you've got the Agent 365 of being $15 a month. We had a little conversation before this, and between ourselves, we're still not quite sure how that Agent 365 licensing would actually work. I mean, do you have to license every single user? Is it more the admin side? A little bit of questions still up in the air about that. But I mean, this licensing SKU goes live or goes GA May the 1st, I believe. So
Yeah.
we got a little bit of time to try and figure that out as well.
Well, I mean, or not. Some
Or
of these
not, yeah.
things won't come out. Like, I mean, the baseline bundle is $117 if you add everything up. That's 60 for E5, 12 for Entra Suite, 30 for Copilot, 15 is the Agent 365 price. Because again, I think we hypothesized on an earlier pod that we didn't know the pricing for that, so that nails the price for Agent 365, which I believe will be available as a separate SKU in its own right. So that is all of that comes to 117. So you're saving $18 off the list RRP by buying your E7, right? So that's it's not a crazy saving, but that's to the point that we've kind of been skirting around is like, are we going to be seeing organizations license everybody in their environment for this? Because my concern, my question mark is the Agent 365 thing, because if you look at what's included in E5, some of it is tenant level unlocks, but the majority of it is user level unlocks. There is functionality for the user that you enable. But with Agent 365, governance of all of the agents in your tenant, what if I've got 20% of my users are on E7? 50% of the remaining users have Copilot and the rest don't.
Yep.
What's going to happen to those Copilot users who are maybe an E3 plus Copilot or an E5 plus Copilot, don't need the Entra Suite stuff? Entra Suite, sorry. Please, how do you say Entra or Entra out there? We want to know, because I keep tripping over this. But then you've got the Agent 365 license. Like some Microsoft licensing is a little bit sneaky. So like the SharePoint Advanced Management license, you're supposed to have a license for everybody in your environment. But actually, as soon as you've got one in your tenants, that unlocks the SharePoint management functionality for all of your users. Is Agent 365 going to be the same, that you just need one SKU in your environment? What is the minimum purchase of these SKUs as well?
Hmm.
To unlock that functionality? It feels to me that value, if we've got 60 plus 30 for Copilot, 60, 70, 80, 90, Entra Suite is going to be hit and miss depending on whether you need that stuff above and beyond PIM and conditional access and what have you. Like, if you just need an E5 and Copilot, like it's they really need to drive what the per user benefit is of Agent 365 to get value from this for an organization, I think.
Yeah, and maybe a little bit about who this makes sense for as well as an organization. We're looking at the cost now going from an E5 to an E7. If you're an organization that's widely spread of E3, this jump is even more. So you need to
Yeah.
kind of, bring that scale back internally and have a conversation of, we're on E3 night right now. Let's have a relook at everything that's included in E5 and now in E7 from a licensing point of view, and
And an
understand.
E3 is $40, right?
Yeah,
$39 something, sorry.
yes. So that's about $40 a user per month. Um, you know, take that internally, and I don't honestly see many people making a jump from E5 to E7, sorry, E3 to E7.
Yeah.
If anything, it's going to be, E5 to E7, uh, or there's going to be a bigger push to understand the differences even more of what you're actually going to be getting and making use out of, comparing the E3 to an E7.
Yeah. And so what do you think this means for the future of E3 and E5 as well? Like, I suppose we have precedent here that, just because E5 came along, E3 didn't stop evolving, changing. It didn't mean every bit of functionality went into a higher license SKU. We did still get a reasonable mix of stuff going into the lower base SKUs, right?
Yeah, we're still seeing things, and there's still roadmap items for new features that are coming to both E3 and E5 as well. So it's not this shouldn't be seen as, well, Microsoft are now forgetting about the other enterprise SKUs. They're only going to care about E7. There's some roadmap items coming around Copilot chat and some other things that in 2026 are going to be coming to both the E3 SKU and the E5 SKU. So, they're still getting packed with features to make the
Yeah.
cost worth it.
So let's touch on a subject close to your heart in particular. Where does this leave? This doesn't solve the problem that we wanted to solve, right? This solves Microsoft's problem of they want to have people, using copilots, having safe and secure agents. Like the agent stuff is very interesting, it's very exciting, but this doesn't solve the problem of we needed to have lots and lots of bundles to get everybody what they wanted. Teams Premium,
Yeah.
right? What Teams Premium's not in here. That would have been my top pick for what I would have expected to see in a bundle, because we already had Teams got renamed to be Teams Enterprise to differentiate it from Teams Consumer. Then we had kind of the phone system license, which was included in the E5. And then you had your calling plans and what have you. We don't have anything to do with calling plans. We don't have Teams Premium, and Teams Premium was meeting enhancements, security improvements, things like end-to-end encryption if you needed it, branding improvements.
Yep.
But what happened recently with Teams Premium as well? That kind of got gutted, devalued, changed recently.
Yeah, so Microsoft have taken some of the functionality out of Teams Premium, but actually made it part of Core, which is a good thing,
Yeah,
depending on what part of Teams Premium you were interested in. You've got things like the Qs app, that's still part of Teams Premium. And that's a big thing for me, talking around Teams Phone as much as I do. That was
do we know what's in the Qs app?
I definitely know what's in the Qs app. There's a good pod
Refer
actually.
to previous pod.
Yeah, there's a good pod which will talk you around what's in Q's app. But what got removed was some of the places. Some of the places stuff got removed and added into core, and some of the attendant packs as well. Some capacity packs got changed, so live events and those sorts of things. There's a new model for you to be able to purchase, larger attendant packs that you're going to need for, those live events. They've come out of premium. Premium
Yeah,
price hasn't changed, and there was a lot of, I've heard it from customers for a long, long time now. Oh, E5 doesn't include premium, because they all thought E5 was the biggest license, so it
catch
included
all.
everything,
Yeah,
and it was just a catch-all. And E7 coming along has muddied the waters maybe even a little more, because E7 doesn't even have that, Teams Premium license included. So don't look at E7 as, well, I've got everything now, because you don't.
yeah.
There are potentially still add-on licenses that you're going to have to purchase for your E7 license SKU.
Yeah, okay. And the Teams Premium is good in a way in that Places is now more accessible. Places doesn't need to rely on the premium license, but yeah, it's it's frustrating. I wonder, we're very much in the modern work and collaboration side of things. I think it would be interesting to know what sort of other other parts of the ecosystem are ruining or missing, that there are SKUs that should have been included in here.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah.
Okay. Alrighty. Well, anything else we need to know, or was that kind of done us as a starter for 10?
I'd be super interested to what people were expecting from E7, and leave a message or reach out to us on LinkedIn, or whatever. It'll be on YouTube and on other podcast places. I'd be super interested to hear, were you expecting it to have everything, or is this what you expected to get the AI stuff in, and basically have that as another SKU level?
Yeah.
That'd be interesting for me.
We are fortunate enough to be having a trip over to Redmond starting next week for MVP Summit, which is Microsoft's kind of under NDA discussion about what their future planning is. I'm very curious to get a feel on the ground of how this is being received, what it looks like, how much this is ticking boxes or raising questions. So report back on that as and when we can, right?
100%. Yeah. Yep.
Good stuff. Do you want to take us out?
Yeah. Well, you can find us on YouTube, 365 Explained, and all of your good podcast places will be on there as well under the same name. I think next time we're going to be speaking around some of the M365 release schedules and trying to unpick that a little bit and understand that. But we thought we'll jump on E7, we'll talk about it. It's hot right now, it's new, so we want to talk about this and get some feedback from everyone as well. But yeah,
Sounds
thanks
good.
everyone for listening. Cheers.
Alrighty. Thanks for now. Catch you later.
Bye.
Bye-bye.